And they say that if a woman is with a narcissist or even a very toxic person, they are more likely to be with a second one than less likely. And
Yeah.
so that shocks a lot of people. But when you start looking at all the statistics and we start talking to women who've been in more than one
Yeah.
toxic relationship, you realize, okay, we just get deceived, like you said, about,
Yeah.
okay, I know the signs because I was with a toxic person. Well, guess what? That chameleon can change into a whole different prince that walks in the
Exactly.
door and looks nothing like the first one.
Welcome to the That's Where I'm At podcast. I'm Laura, happily divorced after spending years with a narcissist. I believe keeping secrets will make you sick and that they always come to light in the end. As women, we're often told to be quiet, don't share your story, don't talk about the things we go through. It's making women sick, sad, and suicidal. We don't have to be on the other side to share our story. This show is for the women still in the middle of the mess, but showing up bravely as they heal. It's time to share these stories with each other so we can learn, grow, and heal together. I'm Laura, and that's where I'm at. Please take note that this episode may contain subjects that may be triggering to certain listeners. Please take care when listening today.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to the That's Where I'm At podcast. Today's guests have a story that sounds like a Lifetime movie, but every word of it is true. Deana and Lizzie were both married to the same narcissist, a man who they discovered was leading a double life while leaving a trail of emotional and financial destruction behind him. But instead of staying silent, they teamed up not just to expose him, but to help other women spot the warning signs before it's too late. This is more than a story about betrayal and abuse. It's about sisterhood, survival, and turning pain into purpose. And my co-host today is Jane. Jane is the ex-fiancée of my ex-husband. They spent 2 years together and we all hung out together in college. She's here to give her perspective, being with the same narcissist I was, and also her experience with narcissistic abuse and other relationships in her life. So you guys, welcome. I'm so excited.
Thank you for having us. I'm so excited. This will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
so glad you guys are here. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Deana and Lizzie, I was so excited to find you guys and to talk to you guys because what an interesting story. And I know there's even more of you than just the two of you in his wake of destruction. So I'm not sure how you guys want to tell the story, but why don't we start with you, Deana? Tell us a little bit about how you met him and how you and Lizzie finally, eventually got together as friends.
absolutely. So I met my ex. We call him Rex, our ex.
I love that. Yes, I love that.
So I met him when I was just 17. And of course, completely naive, not even out of high school yet. He'd been out of high school for a few years, but he went to my same high school. And so I didn't know him, but a lot of my friends did. He was very popular and immediately thought he was amazing, fell in love, the whole thing. Didn't take long before there were serious red flags, actually, before we got married, even though we married in only a few months. That's
There's a
crazy. Don't ever do that.
there's a red flag.
Um, yeah, first red flag when they want to get married quickly.
Listen, I
Um,
did. That's what I did. That's what they do.
that's what I did. That's what Lizzie did.
Yeah.
Jane, I don't know. But anyway,
It was so long ago. Some of this is hard to remember.
totally understand.
Or I'm just blocking it.
That's right.
You blocked it out.
Blocked it out.
I just love that we all get to bring our exes. Like, I just absolutely love this. This
I
is so
know.
much fun.
I was glad she was game. So, like, we're gonna all talk about all of our experiences, and Jane's had other experiences too. So it's like this. It's about the warning signs. It's about giving other people hope. That there's
Yes,
good life after all of this for sure.
absolutely. Anyway, so there were red flags immediately. I was young and naive. I, ignored them. The first story is on our podcast. There's a whole lot. I don't want to go into all of it in detail,
Yeah.
but the basic story is that we were married for 27 years. We had 4 children. I found out early on that he had some strange sexual behaviors. Sex addiction was not a phrase back then. I had no idea what I was dealing with.
Right.
I kept being told by certain counselors we would go to that it was just immaturity or he just was like had a sin problem, if you want to put it in the church context.
Yeah.
And I just was so confused as to what this was. Like, why was he seeking out sexual encounters, outside of our marriage and things like that? So it was a very difficult relationship. And in addition, he had a money problem. So
Mm-hmm.
not only was I being cheated on probably about an average of once every 2 years, it didn't happen all the time, which made it, a long
Yes.
runway to get back together and him to smooth things over and people to say you should give him another try. But then the financial addiction was also there and it was devastating. We filed bankruptcy twice during our marriage. It was, having four little kids, it was absolutely exhausting in every way. And then, then goes the gaslighting and the manipulation and
Right.
all the other stuff that goes with it, the moodiness and just being kind of mean to the kids and all of it. So
Yeah.
anyway, fast forward 27 years and I finally had enough and I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. So I move on and he immediately gets on and meets Lizzie and
My God.
tells her that he and I had been divorced 2 years. We were barely separated, a couple, maybe a month. I don't know. Lies to her that I'm in another state. I wasn't, et cetera, et cetera. So she doesn't know. She thinks he's a great guy. No reason not to believe him. And I know she'll tell you some of her story, but he just started doing all the charming things that he did with me, just making a
Right.
family with her. She had 4 kids as well. And it's just this great story. So
I want to talk about when you're saying that you ignored them. Did you really see them, or are you looking back and saying, like, I can see the red flags now? Or did you really see some red flags, or did you see some behaviors that maybe people were talking you out of it, or that you were talking yourself out of it?
great questions. So obviously being 17 years old, the red flags were, for instance, somebody said, he was with me when he started dating you. That was one.
Okay.
And, of course, you go to him and he's like, that's crazy. So they give you
Yeah.
just such a great explanation. And then
Yeah.
I find out that he's actually with a married woman. Before he met me, he was dating a married woman that was the wife of one of his best friends. But again, being naive, he tells me this whole story about how they didn't do anything. She was being abused by her husband. She was being beaten. And so he
Okay.
was friends with her to try to help her get out of that situation. So I was so naive at that stage. Now, later on, after we were married and there were still multiple red flags going on,
Yeah.
I knew that they were problems. Then there was just no denying it. I had a
Right.
slew of those 900 sex calls, on my phone bill.
Yeah.
And he claimed that a neighbor kid came in every day for 3 months and made all those calls, which, okay, that was ridiculous. Of course, at that point, you catch on, but
Yeah.
then you don't know what to do with it, right? You're
Right.
pregnant, you got a baby on the way. This guy seems to be a good guy, except for whatever this weird thing is. So I think a lot of times when we see red flags, we don't know how to categorize them. And the only person that we can go to, really, that's the expert, is that person to say, what is this? What are you doing? What's the
Like, give an
issue?
explanation. Yeah. And that I always say, I never wanted to look too closely at the sun, because then if I looked at what was going on, everything would blow up. And that was, so every time I would see something and he'd explain it away, I'd see it again. And I'd be like, if I start like checking his phone or checking his iPad and looking for messages, I know I'm going to find it. And then what am I going to do? My life will blow up. Right. And that's,
Yeah,
you make that choice. It's that survival mode you get into.
agree 100%. I was kind of the opposite because I did want to know. I
Yeah.
really, really did, because I just had this sense of not integrity so much, but that I don't want to be in a relationship that's a lie. Like that was really,
Yeah.
really, really important to me. But then even if there's a problem, and then they're telling you, or he would sob and cry
Yeah.
and say, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why. And of course, he would minimize it and say, well, I didn't do all of that. I did this. So now you're dealing with something much smaller. So now you're trying to reconcile that. But then he would explain it that I'm going to get some help. And this is what he did. This is why I kept coming back to him multiple times, because he figured out how to own it,
Yeah.
how to be sad about it, and then who hoover me back in by saying all the right things and going to the right people to get the help. And then they would sit down with me and they would tell me that, there's so much hope for your relationship. He can get better, give him a chance. He would just like schmooze everybody.
It's that trauma bond too, right? Because like that intermittent reinforcement of like, here's the good, I'm going to get help. I promise I'll do better, whatever. And then the abuse again. And so
Yes.
you're getting that intermittent reinforcement, intermittent abuse, and now we're in a trauma bond. And why it's so hard to just walk out the door. Because I think back and it's like red flags did not look like red flags. They were very like, what was that? Like, I don't know. Like, like what was, because telling me that I got married too fast didn't make sense to me. That's a red flag. Of course it's a red flag. That's how he married his next one. They got married right away. You know what I mean? So it's
Yep.
like, of course, they always are waiting in the next one. And that's for me, for sure. What happened with me was I got groomed because Jane and I were all friends. We were all friends in college. And when I look back, I'm like, oh my God, it's no wonder I started dating him. We were just groomed, ready to go. I was the next one. And it's embarrassing and heartbreaking. Lizzie, having heard the story, you heard some of these things too, didn't you? Like the crying, I'll do better, and those kinds of things.
I definitely did, especially at the end. He came on so charming.
Yeah.
See, I had already been single for 10 years
Oh,
between my first husband and when I met him, and I had dated and I had a couple boyfriends in between. But on the other side, it was like his dating was, I'm going to help you with your kids, taking them to sports activities. We're going to go to the grocery store together,
yeah,
doing the dishes. And when you were a single mom of four boys
yeah,
and their dad was AWOL because he was too wackadoodle to
yeah,
even be able to be a sustaining father at any point of life.
yeah,
So it spoke to my heart. Like it was, that's how he wooed me. It wasn't flowers, it wasn't pretty words. Well, he did use a lot of pretty words because that's what he does, but
yeah,
it was, here, let me take this for you. Oh, I got the dishes, or let me go grocery shopping for you. I got dinner for tonight too, so don't worry about that. I'll grill that. Oh, the boys need to go to baseball practice. I'm going to take them. So that's how he wooed me. So it was totally different. I mean, versus a 17-year-old woman versus 17, 18 versus a woman that is in her 40s.
right.
And I had been single for 10 years and I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
Uh-huh.
So, I'm thinking it's so hard not to believe it because he gave me enough fruit at that point to
Uh-huh.
make me go, he's really investing into me and my life and my children. So it was hard to even think differently. But
Right.
here's my red flag at that point. First of all, yes, it happened fast.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I was petrified. Like I couldn't wait for him to leave.
Really.
And, my boys actually, believe it or not, now they would say it differently, but they were like, Mom, he's a really good guy. Look at him. He's doing this for you. He's doing that.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I wasn't really into it because my first marriage was full of emotional, spiritual, religious abuse that I
Okay.
never wanted someone in my space. And all the other people that I dated, I kind of got to keep them at an arm's length. And I notice I kind of still do that, not intentionally. I think
Yeah.
it's just my own issue.
Right.
But it's hard to, after a while, to keep turning your head on someone that
Uh-huh.
is speaking a language in a moment in a season of your life that speaks to you in all the right places. So we got married really fast too, which at that point I kind of knew there was something wrong with that. But even my dad, who was a discerning man, said he's just a really good guy, such a great man. And my dad, like, he's not like that. I mean, he was always so discerning about people, giving them time. But he would go meet with my dad on his days off, which was Friday, and they'd hang out because that was my dad's day off. And they would talk and hang out and do stuff. So my dad was definitely charmed as well.
Yeah.
So after we got married, we were married for 6 years. I followed him around the country with his job, left my career. And then all of a sudden things got really weird. And it was interesting because I'm a school teacher. So I
Okay.
always had the summers off.
Yeah.
So we were on a motorcycle trip from the East Coast to the West Coast. The
Mhm.
best summer I think I've ever had. Like I had this fantastic time, got to see a lot, got to spend time with all the kids. his kids, my kids, whatever, and have fun. Get
Right.
home, I'm like a whole different person. He started going away on Saturdays. He said he was meeting with someone from work, talking about our marriage, really working on our marriage. I'm like, what's wrong with our marriage? Which, I mean, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm fine. So what's your problem?
What's happening?
Yeah, exactly. And then I got locked out of accounts. And then finally I was like, I'm done. Like at that point, I knew something was off. He
Right.
went away for the weekend saying he's going up to the mountains and he
Yeah.
was praying and, doing all the right things. And I was like, okay, I mean, what else can I believe? But at that point, my sister was there, and I looked at my sister and I said, I'm not going through this.
Wow.
So we packed up literally within 2 hours. And one of my sons came to help with his roommate. My other son came down from Virginia. He was in the Navy for the weekend, and they got all my stuff out. We got me a place to live for a while. And at that point, I was just going to file legal separation. And then all of a sudden I was locked out of everything pretty much, and then found out my credit was shot because I trusted him to take care of the bills.
Right.
I hate paying bills. Who doesn't? But some people that's their strength, right? So I
Yeah.
thought that was his strength.
Right.
Now I know differently, and that's something I tell Deana and I through our experiences
Yeah.
talked about financial abuse as Deana shared. And didn't realize he was not paying credit cards that were in my name. So I couldn't even get a place to live. So it was pretty much by my job. It was humiliating because I had just turned 50 and I thought this
Yeah.
should be a different stage of my life. This shouldn't be, oh, sorry, you can't get this because your credit is shot. You're so low, you're going to have to figure out something else.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, through all of that process and reaching out to Deana's son, letting him know, hey, I left your dad. I don't think he's mentally stable right now. He's talked a little bit about suicidal ideations, which, yeah, hindsight 2020, I probably should have reported that. But what do you do when you're in those situations? I think all of us understand that.
And that's the thing is like now we know that, narcissists do that, right? They
Yeah.
threaten
Yeah.
that. And so it's hard because yes, if it's your partner, you want to do something, but they do that, right? And so
Yeah.
how old was her son that you told that you were leaving, that you were leaving your ex?
Do you
How old?
remember how old he is, Deana?
I think at that point he would have been about 30.
Yeah, I think he was
Okay.
at least
Yeah.
30, maybe a little bit older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
kids were grown and they would come visit Lizzie. So they knew that she was a really good woman. And they would tell me, like, Mom, she's a good woman. Like, he picked a good one.
Oh, that's really good. And so then, Deana, did you have concerns about that? Like when you're hearing she was a good woman, did you have like concerns?
Yeah. I still, this is definitely a point of contention in myself. I still feel bad because,
What could you do? I'm
well, I mean, I could have said something. Here's the thing. My oldest daughter, who's one of those, like, she probably should have been a lawyer.
yeah.
She told me, she said, Mom, she said, Dad is lying to this new woman. He's
Oh,
told her, all these things, that he's divorced and all these things. And he's warned us that we are to keep quiet at the wedding,
oh,
that we don't bring up his past and everything he's done to you. And she's like, you need to say something, Mom. You need to say something. And I was like, hey, I really think that she's going to look at me and think, crazy ex, you're just a
yeah,
crazy ex. And then, I mean, it's not like they're little children and will be in their each other's lives, but I
yeah,
still don't want that to happen. And I just felt so uncomfortable even with the idea.
yeah,
And I didn't. So I really do. I wished I would have gone back because now we kind of talk about, Lizzie and I talk about, even on our podcast, like, it may not be a bad idea to even talk to an ex. It may
yeah,
not be a bad idea because every narcissist is going to say their ex is crazy. They're
right.
going to do it.
I
So
know.
I
And
understand there's nuances.
yeah, that's the hard part, I think, with that. Okay. Yeah, it's so hard. Like, what do you do? Because I have women who say all the time, should I warn the next one? I'm like, what are you going to do? Like, there's nothing, you're already painted as the crazy ex. I'll tell you that right now. Guaranteed.
I think how I would pour this wisdom into other women,
Okay.
especially women,
Yeah.
is obviously the ex can't always feel comfortable going to the new person.
Yeah.
But maybe if we all just feed the idea that if you see red flags,
Yeah.
it may not hurt to reach out to the ex.
Okay.
If you see red flags that just are, because yeah, you do need to kind of go into a relationship, kind of giving it 100, and you don't want to just go out of the gate talking to an ex. But
Yeah.
if you're seeing something that kind of causes, I think, a disquiet in your spirit or whatever, however you feel,
Yeah.
or in your gut, it, why not?
Yeah.
Maybe
Ex-
not the ex, but maybe the
Yeah.
person dating that other person. That's
Okay.
my thought.
And so, okay, I want to hear from Jane because so when Jane reached out to me, we hadn't talked in 35 years, I think, because we were
Yeah.
friends in college and then we lost touch. And also I married her ex-fiance. I don't know.
That
Girls,
wasn't awkward at
was
all.
that went out the window. And that literally, she's like, "Can I call you?" And I was like, "Oh my God, yes." And I couldn't even say hello or anything. I was like, "Why did you guys break up? I need to know immediately." She said, "I found you. I was looking for you guys. I found you." She found my podcast. So I'm like, "Well, so you know how we're doing." So you know how things are going.
It was pretty clear at that point.
Yes, it was very clear what was happening. So what did you see, if anything? And maybe it wasn't anything because you guys were together 2 years though. So we did see some of the same things. Like, what was your experience?
And it's interesting because when I talk to you now
Mhm.
and think back, I mean, I didn't tag those as red flags by any means. I thought, oh, I need to do better. I need to be more attentive so he won't flirt as much. That was one of our biggest recurring arguments is his flirting with other women. And after talking with you, Laura,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. In fact, I made it very clear that one of our other friends that we would not have any contact with her. We would not go out with her anymore because he couldn't keep it under control. He would, even over one summer, and I was just thinking about this today, over one summer, he would always talk about his boss at work. And it was, my boss this, my boss this. And I kept thinking, what is so amazing about this
Yeah.
boss? Because that was our whole conversation, all his time at work. And but then again, I reflect that on me thinking, oh, I'm just being jealous, I'm
Yeah.
too insecure. It's my problem,
What
that
did,
kind of
what
thing.
did he say to you? Because I had that same experience. What did he say to you if you brought it up?
We're just friends.
Yeah.
She's
He's
my boss. What am I not supposed to be around her?
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
so now, Deana and Lizzie, what do you guys think? Because to me, knowing his mother, okay, we know his mother, like there's a mother wound there. And so his attention from women was so needed, like to really touch that mother wound. That's what I believe. I believe there was an emotional neglect and he needed the attention from women. What did you guys see?
Deana, this is definitely your arena. So go ahead and carry this one.
I'm going to be honest. He was the baby and he was like his mother's and her new husband's son, and he
Okay.
was adored. So I really truly could never, you know,
Yeah.
trace this to some unmet need or wound in him.
Yeah.
It was just that he was so self-absorbed and so self-centered that even though he wasn't like one of those narcissist types that was just walking around looking in a mirror and always wanting everybody to talk about them.
Yeah.
He was much more quiet about his self-centeredness,
Yeah.
but the world still revolved around him and what he wanted, what made him happy, his moods. Even when we had kids,
Yeah.
I don't, they would annoy him because they were too loud or they were too messy, or there was just constant, you know, bow and worship or walk on
Yeah.
eggshells, to make him happy. So I think in my case anyway, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it can go both ways,
Yeah.
but I just think that honestly, he just learned how to, whether it was a learned thing, nature, nurture, it's hard to know,
Right.
but he just wanted to be the king.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly it. And when you have a covert, like they're one way out in public, right? And I had that same experience. And I know Jane did too. It's like has to be their way. This is the way it's going to be. And you're just being so difficult? Why can't you just let it go? Why are you harping on this situation? Why aren't you just doing it the way I'm telling you to do it? And so it's so funny because he'd say, like, you're so controlling. Then now looking back, I'm like, okay, you were the controlling one. It had to be his way or the highway. And that's very typical for narcissists. And then also for you to hear that you're the one who's the problem, that you're the one who's being controlling when they're in the process of controlling. Okay, so Deana, then when did you and Lizzie talk or connect? Was it after Lizzie got divorced?
No, it was right when my son when she
Oh,
let my
right.
son know.
Yes.
When she let my son know that she was leaving, he
Okay.
reached out to me and said, "Mom, I think it's time that you tell Lizzie
Oh,
what's going on because she's going through all this stuff and she just doesn't know what the problem is. She
yeah.
needs to know what the problem is."
Yeah.
And so at that point, of course, me feeling torn about not telling her at the beginning and her going through all of this stuff because she went through a lot of stuff during the marriage too,
Yeah.
not just at the end, but she's very good at like always looking at the bright side.
I, I noticed that.
Yeah, she does. She's like,
Lizzie,
we had a great
show us
marriage.
that. Come on, get it together.
I mean,
You
he
know,
did.
whatever. The glass is always half full.
Yeah.
Fine, whatever.
I mean, she had it better than me in a way, but I mean, she also filed bankruptcy with him. He also did some gross, cheaty things, but I was always pissed off at all those things he did. She took those things much better than I did. Anyway, okay. The point is that I reached out to Lizzie and I told her everything. I mean, I just said, here's what happened
Yeah.
and told her all of the treachery and all of the awful,
Yeah.
gross sexual things he did with all these people and everything. And it just connected all the dots for her. And it
Oh,
was very validating for me as well, because, even after 27 years, you always have that little shred of doubt. Like,
yeah.
was it just with me? Like, would he be something different with somebody else? Kind of like Jane was saying, you just kept looking at yourself because I was also accused of being insecure and jealous and
Yeah.
judgmental and critical and all the things. But boy, I tell you, like once it happens to someone else who is a wonderful person, you're like, okay, it's not just me. I was right.
So crazy. And I have to say that talking, I don't know if I said this to you, Jane, or not, but talking to Jane was the most healing I had out of all I've been doing this for 3 years. Doesn't matter. The minute I talked to her, I was like someone who knows exactly what I went through, not just some other narcissist, but the exact one. So I'm like, oh my God, okay. I knew I wasn't crazy, but to hear like the same thing, I don't know about you, Jane, but how that felt to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I only had 2 years with them, but in talking to you, I mean, one of the reasons I was looking for you, Laura, is because I was going through so much self-doubt because I've been through two marriages, right? And I'm thinking, oh, did I give up the best thing in the whole world in college? And
Right.
I was like, oh God, Laura, look, no, I need to talk to her now, just
Right.
because, like you said, at the time I didn't see those as red flags. One of the things too was, I mean, I remember breaking up with him and saying to him specifically, I can't give you the time that you were demanding of me because he wanted all of it. And,
Right.
at the time I think I was starting my student teaching, carrying whatever, had all these other jobs because I was paying for myself and I just
Yeah.
couldn't give him the attention he needed, and so that was making him mad. But
Yeah. I mean, I'm like really impressed that you were like, I just can't do it. And then that was it. Like, I'm just impressed.
well, I may have dodged that bullet, but I got hit by a few more.
You got some anyway.
I got some scars.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, we've all been there for sure. That's for sure.
That's okay, Jane. I get it. I had two marriages too. So it's like you get hit by those bullets. It's like, ooh, I thought I was more educated than that, which is a whole different topic we could talk about.
No,
But yeah.
we can definitely talk about that. But I was going to say, I'm going to put your podcast for sure. I'll put the exact link to like your first episode in the show notes so that people can click on it and hear like the extended version of it because I think it's a really good listen because I was just dumbfounded at the years that he's been doing this, just dumbfounded by the chaos he's wreaking everywhere. It's wild to me. And then they just keep because like if I hear the word charming one more time, it's just like I mean they're all so charming, Prince Charming. Like no, run for your life.
Well, yeah, and then of course the rest of the story quickly, not to give it
Yeah.
away all away, but the
Yeah.
rest of the story is the reason that Lizzie and I started doing this and we're so passionate about it is because Lizzie was leaving him. And
Yeah.
as she's leaving him, she goes to her house to get her things and finds a box full of cards and letters with dates and realizes that he had been dating another woman and making a family with her while he was married to Lizzie. So
That's,
all those like mountain retreats and,
yeah.
I need to go and work on our marriage by myself, all those things, he was telling this other woman that because he lived like a town away, he was
Yeah.
telling her, that he was working another job or something like that and he could meet here and there. And that he was also taking care of a little elderly couple. He lived with them and took care of them.
What?
And that's why he didn't take her home, because he didn't want to disturb them. And he's telling Lizzie that he's Ubering and or he's going to the mountains or he's whatever, whatever. And he's like carrying on a whole double life while he's married to her for almost a year. So
That,
Lizzie discovers this right after we become friends. We hadn't been friends for too long when she discovered it. And then she and I are like, oh, we have to find this woman. He
oh
will
my
marry
God.
her as soon as your divorce is final, Lizzie.
Yeah.
And so we just were like, okay, we have to do whatever it takes.
So
So,
yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So when you found her and reached out to her and what happened?
well, it took several months before we found her. We found her on Facebook first, and, we didn't see any sign of him on her Facebook. So we didn't know. By this time, it'd been a couple of months since Lizzie had left, I think.
Okay.
And so we weren't sure if she was still with him or if she wasn't. But we tried, messaging. We tried finding people that maybe were connected somehow, and we were completely failed at it. So finally, I just left her a message in her Facebook Messenger, even though we weren't friends. So it went somewhere weird, I guess,
Yeah.
and just hope she would find it. And it said something to the effect of, listen, if you find this, Jane, we call her Jane too. Sorry, Jane.
Jane Doe.
If you find this, Jane, an alias name, Lizzie and I just want you to know that we can tell by your Facebook page that you were a really good woman, that you probably had no idea that this person was married while you were with him. I don't know if you're still with him or if you're not, but if you ever want to just reach out, we're here for you. We know you're innocent, something to that effect.
Yeah.
And it was what, maybe a month later, Lizzie, or 6 weeks later or something?
It was actually 2 months later because
Two
that was
months later.
6 weeks. Yeah, because I can tell you the exact date, June 2nd, when she did that. And we heard from her, I believe, July 14th or 15th.
She's
Wow.
she's a whiz. I don't know how she does that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I couldn't even tell you the year. So anyway, so she all of a sudden, and this is hilarious, I'm actually heading to a conference. I work at a hospital as a manager, and I have to do a keynote speaker for breast cancer awareness. And I'm heading to be the keynote speaker,
Oh,
and my ADD person self is not ready for this, for the speaking at all. I'm not prepared with my notes. So I'm going to get there early and sit in the car where it's quiet and prepare to be the speaker. Guess who calls me after 2 months of us
my God.
dying to connect with this woman, to do everything we can to save her from this situation? She calls me on the way. I couldn't believe it. And of course, I'm looking at the call waiting and I'm like, oh,
Oh my
so
God.
don't answer it, don't answer it, don't answer it, don't answer it. And of course, I answered it.
Of course.
And that, bless her heart, she was like, hey, hi, I'm so confused. I'm not sure what to make. I found this message in a weird place on Facebook.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, well, do you know who I am,
Yeah.
Jane? And she said, yes, I know who you are. And I said, okay, are you still with Rex? She said, yes, I am. I said, okay, listen, Lizzie and I just wanted you to know that we know for a fact, because we know how he is. You may not know this, but we know that you're a good person and you probably didn't know he was married. And she's like, who is Lizzie?
Oh
He
my,
had cut her out of the story completely. He had told her he'd been single for 6 years and that his children didn't talk to him because they were angry because he moved out of state and left them, and
wow.
all these lies.
All of
And she had stayed single because she had a traumatic marriage before. She'd stayed single for a multiple number of years and
man.
then thought this was the perfect man. And boy, I tell you, now having to explain that Lizzie lived, a town away, And
Yeah.
then she knew the house because she said they'd driven by every now and then. He'd run in and get something. But her first comment after she stopped panicking was, "Do you think this red coat I'm wearing is Lizzie's?
Oh my
Because
gosh.
I thought it came from the little old lady. He said that she was giving it to me." And I'm like, oh, there
Oh my
was
God.
no old lady, no old man. That's probably Lizzie's coat. Yes. Yes. So it was a whirlwind. It was absolutely crazy. Lizzie and her ended up connecting and connecting
Okay.
so many dots. I mean, things like Lizzie and he and Lizzie going on a road trip and buying a souvenir. And he brought the souvenir to her and said he went on a road trip by himself. And so he brought Jane this souvenir and end up cutting Lizzie out of the pictures and showing Jane just the pictures of him and on this trip. I mean, it was like the connections they made when they had that conversation were phenomenal. And that little sassy lady, Jane, she was incredible. She actually, that very weekend, she was a hairdresser in this town that she lived in, and she knew everybody. And that very weekend, when he rolled into town because he was on a road trip with her son, which freaked her out,
Yeah, I'm sure.
when he rolled into town, she had the police escort him into her driveway. She had an annulment. She had a court
Wow.
order. She had a restraining order, everything lined up. And he gets off that motorcycle and he turns around and he's like completely freaked out. Of course, Lizzie and I wish so bad we could have been there because we
Oh
would
my
have been
gosh.
cheering for,
Yeah,
you
that would
know,
have been so fun to watch.
yes.
So how long after you guys got divorced, Lizzie, did they get married?
So our divorce, if I can give dates. So
Of course.
our divorce was finalized April 15th, pretty much
Okay.
around there. And they got married on the day after Deana sent that Facebook message. So she sent, I believe, on June 1st. They were married June 2nd. I'd have to look at the dates, but that's pretty much the timeline. And yeah, it was really quick. And she said, he wanted me to marry him a long time ago. And I said, no, this is too fast. And I thought, well, that would have been interesting because we were still married. I
Exactly.
mean, the time that I thought he went on a retreat and the weekend that I left,
Yeah.
they actually went to visit her family in another state. And he was asking her to marry him right then and there in her backyard, in her sister's backyard or something like that. I was like, when she told me that, I was like, are you kidding me? That would have been a bigamist, right? Is that the right term? I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean,
to
that's
do
so
that,
wild. That's so wild.
isn't it? Exactly.
That's
And
really wild. Yeah.
and then when you look at the pictures, I've kind of done a lot more to my hair since I left Rex. But if I look at her pictures, because in the box of cards that I found, there were some pictures of her, and I found other pictures, and I was like Sherlock Holmes for a couple hours. But
For
I
sure.
was just amazed how we all looked alike. We were similar.
Wow.
It was just amazing because there's times that Deana and I look more alike than others. So you know that he has a type. And then you add the third person and you're going, oh my goodness, this person looks like us too.
Really?
It's
That,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah.
The
And
three of
then
them
he ran off to
look
wife
the
number
same.
four. So
What?
four families. Yep. As soon as she divorced him, Jane, he ran off to wife number four and got with someone who was friends with his sister in another state. Yeah. And married her immediately.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, the turmoil. I want to talk about, okay, so I always say this, we don't blame for abuse, but we sure look at the patterns or the things that we feel like we needed and what attracted us or what we were getting out of these things. But we don't blame for abuse. But do you guys know what I'm saying? Because I'd love to know, what do you feel like in you? All of us are going to answer this question. What do you feel like in you was the way you were then to who you are now, and what has changed in you? And it doesn't have to, doesn't have to be like every single thing, but do you know what I'm saying? Who would like to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
So the first thing that I can say that I had a huge epiphany about when
Yeah.
after we divorced was I read a book, an older book called Women Who Love Too Much. And in that book, what I learned more than anything else was that oftentimes when we have something in us, whether it be low self-esteem, whether it be a need to be loved, whether it be fill in the blank, could be anything. We get attracted to somebody who adores us. And
Yes.
we measure that as our scale for being attracted back to that person
Mhm.
because they are, they're putting us on a pedestal. They're giving us, they're feeding us all the kind things, all the wonderful things. They admire, adore, all the things. But what we're supposed to do as women and humans
Mhm.
is we're supposed to look at somebody that we adore and we admire
Yeah.
regardless of blocking out all of the love bombing and all of the emotions and all the things. What do we think about this person?
Right.
Do we think they're incredible? Do we think they're admirable? Are they respectable? Do they have a strong character?
Yeah.
Do people around them trust them and think highly of them? So that was one of the biggest things that I took away. Now, obviously, being a 17-year-old, I had multiple holes in my heart. Grew up in a very dysfunctional family. Mom
Mhm.
was ended up being married like 4 or 5 times. Good mom, but just same thing, just didn't have a good filter for men.
Yeah.
So I think just having a bad filter and just having, not the right role model for what love really looks like
Mhm.
can make you really settle for something that feels like love and is
Yeah.
sort of a counterfeit for love,
Right. I so resonate with that part of like, the external validation. I lived off of that, and he was 18, I was 19 when we met. And so it's like, we're so young. Like, so none of us had a full brain, it's like, and I definitely had that need to be loved. And of course, I was being sold that, right? It's like, oh, look, a boy is paying attention to me. And I had that with my high school boyfriend as well. And just such a need to be loved, and that's what I lived off of for. And so that to me, when I was getting the external intermittent reinforcement, right, so like that trauma bond was really hard because he would be happy with me sometimes and then he wouldn't, and that was so hard because I had such a deep need to be loved. I never felt understood or listened to or anything growing up, and I did have the model of, my parents were together 60 years. And so I had that model, but also our parents didn't have the same choices that we could make, right? They didn't have the same opportunities that we have. And then in Gen X, we are Gen X, unless you were being hit, you weren't really in abuse. And I don't know about you guys, but it's like when you get married, you want to stay married forever. I mean, that's why else would you get married, right? And so that's what I wanted. So I definitely had to learn how to love myself. And then I had to learn how to set boundaries, and those went together. And that's what changed my life. And so that's how I live my life now. I love myself, and that radiates into the world. I don't just walk around loving myself. So that's what happened to me, the changes I made. You guys?
I love that, Laura. Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. So when I'm thinking about Laura, our ex,
Mhm. Yes.
the other Rex,
Yes. Right.
um, my parents, I mean, to start off, my mom was narcissistic. She absolutely was. And she demanded all of my dad's time. And so that's the model I had
Oh,
what marriage
interesting.
should be. And
Yeah.
so our ex comes along and, oh, look, he wants to spend all his time with me. Ooh. And then it was, oh, he wants to spend all his time with me.
Right. Because then you saw that. Yeah.
Wow, don't know if I can do that or not. So I was working off of a relationship that had a narcissist in it anyway and thought that's what it was supposed to be, what all relationships were supposed to be. And then, that old adage of, well, if you don't meet the person you spend the rest of your life with in college, then you're pretty much screwed. And so everything just kind of fell in line until he wanted to spend all his time with me. And then I couldn't do that. I would say though, probably from the person I was in my second marriage, when that started to now, I've probably the most growth and learning to self-love.
Yeah.
You know, as I tell my kind of go-to when people ask, how are you? I say, oh, I'm dazzling, of course.
Right.
So, so I just have to remember to keep that dazzle,
Right.
give it to the world, rather than look for someone who will confirm that or validate that for me.
Yeah. And let me tell you, like all of us, like you guys are all such beautiful people, inside and out. And it's like that's part of what they like about us anyway. So Lizzie, what kind of changes do you feel like when you were in the relationship and then after?
Well, I can really kind of focus on obviously Rex, but
Yeah.
after coming out of such an abusive first marriage, and I'm like you, Laura, my parents were together for 6 years. They
Mhm.
had such a good bond. I feel like I had an incredible role model of what a couple would look like. So I thought I knew.
Right.
And then when I would date after my first husband, and for those 10 years, I would use my filter was the filter of what my first husband was like as the only red flags. That if I had realized that there's other red flags besides what I was living with in my first 14 years of marriage, then I would have chosen different. But it was his need to help. He came along beside me.
Mhm.
It's like, when you look at the ox who carries their cart, I
Yep.
was a single mom with no help. I had support, I had a village, but it's not the same. It's all
Yeah.
the basic, agreements or, hey, you can go do this, or if you make a bad choice. But you notice that when there's an ox in the cart, there's two oxen. So I was doing the job of raising these four children with one oxen. So all of a sudden, I had this person come beside me and say, "Let me help you carry that load."
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. At that point, I lost all of my perception, I think, and my discernment because he came along beside, and that's how he charmed me. I learned there's a difference between charm and character now.
Yes.
And so obviously, I also had to learn that there's a difference in red flags. There are so many different red flags that if we don't learn them,
Yeah.
then it's so easy to get sucked in. It doesn't matter if you have a doctorate, it doesn't matter if you're a lawyer. It happens to the most intelligent people on the planet. It really does.
It really does. And that's why, one of the reasons is they do use the way that we are, right? To mirror us, right? And that's the hardest part because you're really falling in love with yourself because they're mirroring your qualities. And it's just, I hate that. It's heartbreaking, because they don't come in with a sign that says, "Hello, I'm here to abuse you." They come in as everything you ever wanted and as everything you've ever needed. And it feels familiar and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because, and I can't even think back to when we met. And because all of a sudden he wants to get married and have three kids, because I wanted to get married and have three kids. And I don't know who said what first, but I'm very open. I'm sure it was me. And that part I think is hard. And it's like people don't realize that's part of the love bombing, that's part of the whole cycle of abuse. Just mirroring you, listening to you, right? And Lizzie, him coming alongside you, knowing you needed somebody. And that's how he was going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing when you step back
Yeah.
after the 6 years, things that bubbled up
Yeah.
towards the end, I was actually more fearful because you realize you don't know that person at all.
Yeah.
You're right. You know an image of yourself because that was the perception you were given in that relationship.
Yes, exactly. That part's really heartbreaking. And I wish we had a lot more time, but we don't. And so I want to talk a little bit. I want to get to like, let's give everybody a little bit of hope and talk about what kinds of things you guys did to, well, why you started talking about it. There's a bunch of questions going to be in this that I know you can do it, but why you started talking about it and what were you doing on your healing journey besides talking about it to heal what you had been through? And so what kind of things can you give the listeners some hope for?
I know for me, I did a lot of journaling. I
Yeah.
also, in my journaling, I was really big on writing three blessings or
Yeah.
three positives that happened in the day. And it could be something as simple, hey, I got up and I got through work. But
Yeah.
then you kind of, when I started having that mind frame in the midst of my grief, I would go, it's a beautiful day. Look at the beautiful blue sky. Look at the birds that are singing. You
Mhm.
really become present in your surroundings and really feeling, not just seeing, the more you feed that into yourself, the
Yeah.
more I would also begin to feel that positivity and that blessing, because they're all around you. And it's so hard when you're in that dark space.
It really helps change your brain chemistry because, when we've been in abuse, we're getting a little bit of brain damage. And listen, our brain can be healed. And so doing all those things, doing so many things, there's so many things that we can do to heal, holistic things. We can do prayer, meditation, all the things, affirmations. Journaling was instrumental for me as well. I don't think people realize, people say, like, I don't know what to journal. It's like, just do 3 blessings, 3 gratitudes. Just start there. Because you're right. When you start having to look around, I did something similar. I got up one day and said, great job getting out of bed. And I didn't, people would call me, how are you doing? I'm like, I didn't cry this hour. And that's okay. I think we're waiting for the big, like, monumental thing. It's like the little wins add up to the big wins. Just take one step, 1 foot in front of the other. Sometimes you'll fall back, and that's okay. Go, keep going. It's okay. What kinds of things did you guys do to, yeah, Jane and Deana, to heal, to really heal yourself?
Well, for me, my healing journey started before I left the relationship
Yeah.
because about 2/3 the way in, I finally got the epiphany, probably 22 years in,
Yeah.
that I could not change him to make myself okay because that's what I was working on, right? I was working on him.
Of course.
If he would just get better and stop doing what he was doing, I would be okay.
Yeah.
Everything would be okay. The family would be okay. So
Yeah.
I was shoving books down his throat and trying to get him to go to seminars and like
Then, Deana,
all the
I had a PowerPoint.
yeah,
If you would
exactly.
just stop abusing me, everything would be great.
Exactly. All of it. And it all went to the wayside, every bit of it. And so finally I get this epiphany. It took a long time that I need to start growing for myself. I need to start healing myself within the relationship.
Yeah.
And my mom told me, she said, look, you need to get healthy. And I was like, but I am. She's like, mm-mm, you
Yeah.
can't be in this relationship and really truly be healthy, Deana. So there's something. So if you get healthy and he has a chance of getting healthy, then he'll come along with you. But if he's just there to suck you dry, he will not.
Yeah.
The most important thing for me was I also needed to survive at this point. I was drowning. It was like my head was being held underwater and I needed to survive and I had to gasp for air and it wasn't going to come from him. So I started getting every self-help book I could. I studied codependency. I studied self-esteem. I studied, every book I could get my hands on, everything I could do. At that point in time, I didn't have money to go to a therapist.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that. Had my own business. And so I just started growing. And that is what enabled me to heal and to start getting my own 2 feet and understanding what I was going through because I was so confused and befuddled as
That's
to his behavior, you
that's
know?
it. But that's our whole gambit, right? Is chaos and confusion. And so you really think, and they're also telling you, like,
Mm,
if
yep.
you would just fix you, what they're really saying is, if you would stop holding me accountable, that's really what they're saying. If you would stop holding me accountable, everything would be fine. I heard for years, if you were just a better wife, we would be fine. And so, oh my gosh, therapy, self-help books, all the things. I did all the things. And the last time I went to therapy was where I found my voice and started. I didn't understand narcissistic abuse, but I was like, I can't do this. Like, what if I have to live with him for 40 more years? Because my parents were together 60. His parents are still together. What if I have to live with him for 40 more years? What's going to happen? I'm like, I won't make it. I won't make it. And that was really a sad thing to even think. Who wants to live like that? Like, people say, like, oh, you just run out the clock. Run out the clock. I'm 55 years old. Why would I run out the clock? What does that even mean? I'm not going to do that. For the sake of saying you're married, that wasn't enough for me, right? Had to think about myself. I had to save myself really at that point. Jane, what kinds of things did you try? It doesn't matter when, but when you started healing.
Actually, everything that the three of you have already touched on, a little bit of all of it. The main thing was I had to change the narrative that I would always run through my head. because I would always make it my fault. I'm not
Yeah.
this enough. I'm not that enough. If I'm just more of this or more of that,
Yeah.
then see how amazing I am and want to be in my life,
Yeah.
and it had to become, and there's been a lot of silence, and, me understanding that silence really does say a lot. And again, part of that changing of that narrative is, do you show up? Are you present? And are you consistent?
Yeah.
And those are the things that I've had to work on, not chasing that consistency, because I'm not the one withholding it.
Yeah.
So
I love that. That's such a big mind shift, right? Mindset change, because I didn't know that your actions and your words should match. I just didn't, because I don't know if you guys heard this, but always like, well, just look at my intention. My intention wasn't to hurt you, but it's like, but you did hurt me. It's like you did do these things to hurt me intentionally. So it's wild to me. So I want to ask you guys, when did you decide to start talking?
Oh, you mean on our podcast?
Yeah, I mean, like, why did you even decide to start a podcast? What made you do that?
Well, I think it was somewhere between him having a wife while making a family while he had a wife, somewhere between finding out that
Yeah,
and him running off to wife number four. Somewhere in between that Lizzie was the one actually that said, Deana,
I love it.
we are going to tell our story
Yes.
and we are going to help other people. And this is going to happen. And she almost pulled me by the ear and was like, we're going to do this. And at
And
the
Dina's
time, I
like,
had a very nice
mm-hmm,
career
uh-huh.
making six figures. I mean, I was doing very well in healthcare. Like, I didn't really have any aspirations of doing this full
Right.
time. But I was like, yeah, like Lizzie said, I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, we should. I mean, I knew we should. I knew watching all these families devastated, and not
Yeah.
including all the women that he would call on the phone and try to perp on, and the women he would walk up to and smooth talk and try to perp on, not including any of those poor women that were, and his fourth wife found on his phone he was talking to 27 different women at the same time, trying to
It,
get something from them.
it's amazing to me when I listen to true crime podcasts all the time, and I will hear that all the time. Like, how do they even keep track of these people? Like, I don't even know. It's wild to me.
How they keep track is they use a generic name.
Oh,
I was always called Sweetie. So I
oh,
rarely heard my name
yes.
fully out. So they use that kind of mode because I said, well, now that makes sense. So the one thing I tell anybody if I date them is never call me Sweetie,
Don't call me for that.
'Cause I was Sweetie also.
Oh,
So we were gonna get t-shirts made, Sweetie 1,
oh
Sweetie 2,
my
and Sweetie 3, but we didn't.
And the other thing, we do have to warn the others, right? That's why I want to talk. It's not about them specifically, though it should be, but it's about these red flags, especially our generation. We weren't taught that. Be the good girl, do this X, Y, and Z, and then you end up with this life that, this good life. And it's not, it didn't turn out that way. And so, I was talking to somebody earlier and I love the conversation my kids are having. My kids are grown. Two of them are in their 30s. And it's like, I love the conversations they're having. They speak so openly about these things. I'm like, oh, thank God, like this generation is talking about this kind of stuff. And I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, I will say that all of my kids have married very well
Oh,
because of this situation. I mean, not just because of it, I mean, one of them was married before it happened, but I'm just saying that they've really seen the discernment that needs to happen and
yeah.
the choosing your partner and how deceptive people can be,
Right.
how incredibly deceptive someone can be, and that you really have to take your time getting to know them. You really do, because the red flags aren't going to come out if you're a long distance relationship for a long time,
Yeah.
or if you get into a serious relationship,
Yeah.
moving in together or having a child together
Mhm.
before you really know this person.
And I
It's
was gonna say that my
yeah.
children have decided not to get married at this point, so they're all single.
Oh my gosh.
But they're a few years younger too.
Yeah.
So
well,
You know,
Laura, can I could just add one thing is the end
yeah,
of,
of course.
you talk about letting other women know what these signs are,
Yeah.
because I had to look back, right? And even in hearing your stories, I look at this most recent cesspool I'm in and thinking, okay, I'm not crazy. It really is happening because,
Yeah.
you know, and when I was with our ex, I would talk to my parents about it, and
Mhm.
they reinforced that I was the bad one because when we actually broke up, they came to town and took him to breakfast. But oh well,
Him to breakfast. Oh my gosh.
oh
Uh,
well.
Toxic parents, a whole other episode.
Yeah, like 'cause- and that was my role model. But
Yeah.
really, it's helped me change that narrative in my head. Knowing I am not the crazy one. It's not just me overreacting. It's actually happening.
Yeah.
So thank you for talking about it.
It's so good because like all the red flags, we've talked about red flags that I talk about on every episode, but we've also talked about other red flags that I haven't. And I'm just thinking about like the episode that was out today. We talked about some red flags that I haven't talked about before. And this is why we have to keep talking because it's so important because it might not be a red flag. I'll post videos on social media and people will go like, "Oh my gosh, another level unlocked. Didn't realize." And that's not to like scare anybody, trigger anybody. It's really to just like, this is abuse. This is what it looks like. And this is how insidious it is, and why we have to just be aware so that we're not looking around for our external validation and we can start looking inward and start loving ourselves so that, we don't get stuck in this again.
A
I,
100%. And they say that if a woman is with a narcissist or even a very toxic person,
yeah,
they are more likely to be with a second one than less likely. And
yeah,
so that shocks a lot of people. But when you start looking at all the statistics and when you start talking to women who've been in more than one
yeah,
toxic relationship, you realize, okay, we just get deceived, like you said, about,
yeah,
okay, I know the signs because I was with a toxic person.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, guess what? That chameleon can change into a whole different prince that walks in
exactly.
the door and looks nothing like the first one.
Exactly. Yes. I've had multiple people on my show who've been with more than one who said that. And that's why we have to write things down, what I call the shit list, write things down or record yourself, whatever. When you feel off, to say, like, is this what's really supposed to be going on? Because I'm feeling a little crazy. And I've had so many people talk about that to help us like gather our thought and figure it out so we don't keep repeating the pattern.
And if I could just give one tiny, quick, super quick disclaimer. With my current husband, we've been together now married for 12 years. And I will say that he is a wonderful man. But I went into that relationship
Mm,
with crazy amounts of trauma,
yeah.
and I saw every red flag possible with him.
Yeah. Oh,
So also be careful, because if you are with a wonderful person,
yeah.
your filter's really messed up and really broken.
Yeah.
And so you need time to regulate. You
Yes.
need time to figure out what normal looks like, what normal is, and not push everybody away immediately. So that's a whole nother
That
tough
makes
topic, but
sense. That makes so much sense. I know we could talk all day long. We could do an entire 2-day retreat on on all these. So I'm telling you, we'll have to talk about that. And I'm so sorry that we have to say goodbye. You guys, thank you so much, all three of you guys, for being on my show today. I'm so thankful. Deana and Lizzie, the Matadoras, we're going to put all your information in the show notes so everybody can connect with you and listen to your story. But just real quick, tell me where everybody can find you.
Surviving Toxic Relationships. We have a podcast, and we also have a YouTube channel. We also have a public Facebook, and we are also on Instagram. So, and LinkedIn. So any of those, you can find us on Surviving Toxic Relationships with the Matadoras, because the Matadoras spot red flags and escape the bull.
I
That's
love,
where that came from.
I love that so much. Jane, thank you for being here, sharing your side of the story and all. Oh my gosh, you guys, this has been a ton of fun. I thank you for everything you said. And guys, if anything resonated with you today, please look, touch all the buttons. Like it. You're in Apple or Spotify or YouTube right now. Like it, subscribe, do all the things, leave us 5-star review, do all the things, because then podcast land knows that you love us and then we can keep doing this work. So thanks again so much for being here, all three of you guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Laura, for having us.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you for joining me today on the That's Where I'm At podcast. Did the story today resonate with you? Do you think others would benefit from hearing the stories we are telling? Please go to Apple or Spotify right now to leave a review so everyone in podcast land will know you love the show. We want to continue sharing stories of hope and healing. I'll be back next time. I'll talk to you then.